Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to the Chicken Box, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's raining some places, snowing other places, and the sun is shining in others. And sometimes it's doing both. Man, we got an action-packed show for you today. Black people versus access to capital. If you're a business owner, this might ring a bell. I'm one of your hosts, Kevin Impeccable Peck. We're going to get into it in a minute. But first of all, how are you feeling? You know what I mean? It comes a time when you stream, or you're in this traffic, or you're fighting, or you're on the front line, and you just need to check, just a quick check-in, and really, how are you doing? Dr. Draper, how are you? I'm going to ask that. I'm gonna put the sign up in a minute. You
Okay,
want me?
no sign and no sign of no mugs, right? Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's morning where I am, so I have my cup of tea and toast. But I am well, thank you. During this pandemic, that's a good question to ask. So many people are stressed and distressed and repressed and every kind of stress you can come up with. But I am well. And I'm representing the boomers. I call myself a boomer millennials. I'm trying to keep up with my millennial friend, Misha Green.
I forgot to say, I represent the Gen Xers out there, yo. You know how we do. Anyway, Misha Green, my millennial friend, how are you this morning?
I am doing well this morning, or rather this afternoon for me. But as I played this morning, as I was prepping for the chicken box, God has smiled on me. Despite this cold weather, I still have a wonderful place to call home and a warm place to lay my head. So I am feeling very grateful this Thursday. And I'm representing for the millennials, everybody.
Absolutely. Grateful is the word of the day. The chicken box is where we, if this is your first time tuning in and we popped up on your feed on Facebook, do us a service. The little arrow that goes like this, I think we all should do it in the next few seconds, is we need to share, because when we connect and share information, we're a lot stronger and a lot more powerful. But this is the show. If you're from Baltimore, you know a chicken box is full wings and fries. And like some people, they like to add a half and half to it as well. This is where we break through the stereotypes that have been said in our community. And this is where we really speak truth to difference, truth to opinion, and truth to truth, because sometimes it is just the truth, whether you want to believe it or not, whatever world you live in. But man, capital. God, did you know that next week, February the 18th, is the Black Business Matters Expo? That's right. It is the Black Business Matters Expo. We have exceeded expectations. And before I get started, let me just go where we're going. We got billionaire Robert Smith. We got Egypt Sherrod. We got David Shands, Brian Olds, Eric, the hip hop preacher, Eric Thomas, as well as a lot of other great people who are going to be sharing their ideas about business. But none of them can get their business going without capital. So we have a very special guest today, Ray Bell. Let me see if Ray is with us. Ray, how are you this morning?
Afternoon. Good morning.
Or afternoon, I want to just keep saying this morning. I'm going to bed too late, I think, Ray.
Yes, indeed.
Welcome to the Chicken Box, my friend.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on and be able to share some of the things I've done so far in my career and in my business. And what better group of people to do it with than you three. So thank you guys for having me. It means a lot to me.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been talking lately a lot about entrepreneurship and business, but of course, accessing capital in business is the key.
Yes.
You can have the best service, the best idea, and that will stay that way. But if you don't have the capital to move it forward, to run your business, you just have a great hobby or great idea that you're still waiting to get off the ground. It says that you are the founder of R. Emmanuel. Is that Emmanuel like in the Bible, or that's
yes, it is.
All right. It is. All right. Okay, Ray, you're gonna get us pumped up on the chicken box today. All right. R. Emmanuel Bell Consulting, a training and facilitation company, and Hope. That's Hope Project, known as the Harvard of the Hood.
Yes, sir.
You heard it. You heard it clearly on the chicken box. Hope is Harvard of the Hood. Welcome to the show. Can you just give us a little bit about your consulting group and
Sure.
why Emmanuel Bell Consulting?
So, R. Emmanuel Bell, I actually decided to call the company after my name because there was this guy that I had met about 25 years ago. Anybody in business in DC, they know R. Donahue Peoples. I used to own a auto detail shop back in the 90s. Donahue Peoples was one of the wealthiest African Americans in this country. He has hotels and golf courses all over the country. He was one of my clients in my detail shop, and his company back then was called R. Donahue Peoples. And I really looked up to him because he was very down to earth. He was very ambitious, and he shared a lot, the same way I do with my community now. So I said, you know what, I'm going to call my company R. Emmanuel Bell. That's kind of like how I came up with the name, but it really is a consulting and training company. We really focus on developing people for careers in information technology, but also helping organizations build, maintain, and grow, really good, strong career training programs with an emphasis on IT when we can. But I'm excited to be here because we really began to branch out into other areas, still in line with the business that I'm excited to talk about. And I'm sure I'll get a chance to talk about them over the course of the next minutes or so about what we've built. But that's a good basis of what we've been doing.
Absolutely. I'm excited about Emmanuel. I'm excited about Hope. You know what I'm saying? Harvard of the hood. What made you combine those two words together? Harvard and hood. I mean, I know we got some people from the hood who have gone to Harvard now, now that we've evolved into the centuries and the time. But what was your thinking when you put those two words together?
I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't. Anybody that follows me on social media or they're part of my personal network, I'm a huge storyteller. The name Harvard of the Hood came from a candidate that wanted to be in the program. So in order to be in our IT program, it's a grueling process. You have to come to an info session. You have to write an essay. You have to score really high on a reading and math test. And you have to be interviewed by people like me who really grill you to make sure you are ready for the level of commitment. So I just so happened to be sitting in a room with a bunch of folks who were about to go in to be interviewed. And I looked over and I saw a young lady and she said, I said, so why? I said, what's wrong? Are you okay? She said, Mr. Bell, I'm nervous. I'm over here sweating. I said, why? She said, I feel like I'm in court. And then she went in and interviewed and she aced the interview. She wound up getting in. And on her way out the door, she said, Mr. Bell, you should call this place the Harvard of the Hood. I said, well, why do you say that? She said, I just got finished my interview. And I just heard that the people that graduate from your program, they do really, really well. They average $65,000 a year. And it's really hard to get in here, just like Harvard. So that's what you should call it. It's the Harvard of the Hood. And then she walked out the door, and I've been using it ever since.
Absolutely. You never know when an angel will drive by if you just tuned in. We are talking about Black people versus access. That's right. Access to the word we call capital. I'd like to say good morning to everybody who's chiming in. We got Jonathan, we got Hugo, Byron, Cuzzo, Rachel. We got one of the jewels. We have a jewelry store, Ray. We usually have two jewels pop up on the show.
Okay.
And so put in the chat, you guys, if you're listening, what comes to mind when you hear the word capital? What comes to mind when you hear the word capital? Now we're not just talking about access yet. We just want to know what comes to mind. Craig Talley, my good brother, how are you this afternoon? What comes to mind when it comes to capital? And then we're going to get into accessing capital. This is the Chicken Box, 30 seconds. Dr. Draper, what's your thoughts when it comes to capital?
So what comes to mind when I hear the word capital, especially as it relates to our businesses, is that it's hard to access. Mm-hmm. It's hard to access. And so I participated, for example, in inner city capital program that was in Baltimore. I think it's in DC as well. And most of the participants in that program, which is a free program, by the way, and if I can find the link, we'll post it. If not, we'll put it back up on afro.com, is so many businesses want to grow, want to scale. And access to capital has not always been easy. Now, nobody's going to just give you capital. It's not like, you knock on the door and say, hey, I need some capital. Can you give it to me? No, you have to be prepared to get that capital. You have to go to the Harvard of the Hood or someplace and get your business plan together, get your life in order, right? Get things in order for that. But there is capital. It's just, we have to follow those rules. But sometimes, listen, when we as African American businesses follow the rules, it's still difficult to have access to capital because we don't have those banking relationships or those business relationships that someone can say, oh yeah, you know what? I know Ray Bell, he takes care of his business. And so it's still that kind of network. And I'm glad that we are starting to build that kind of network for ourselves.
Absolutely. It seems like you had a real, emotion attached to that capital, Dr. Draper, this morning. But anyway, Misha Green, what pops in your mind? Well, what do you feel when you hear the word capital?
The first thing that pops into mind is I don't know enough, to be quite honest. I, obviously have heard other entrepreneurs and people who I'm close to who are in sort of the business world talk about trying to gain capital, working towards it. And I know particularly for my friends who are of color, that they've felt like there have been times where systemically they've felt they've not been able to have access to capital despite having a great business plan or a really, really well developed system that they think would they have in place. So that's what comes to mind for me is that I have heard about people, really struggling getting access to it. When they do, it's really exciting and a wonderful thing. And that a lot of people don't know necessarily the different resources and tools that they have in order to.
Absolutely. So we're going to jump to the comments. Craig Talley says money or resources. Thanks for tuning in. Lana says it's opportunity. So far, don't listen. This is how we engage, you guys. We go back and forth. We know we can't have everybody in the audience on the show, but one day we'll be able to be like, hey, call in, and then we can just buzz you right in. We're gonna add that to the chicken box if you want to come up and you really have something to express. But just put in the chat if you just came in. The question was, what comes to mind when you hear the word capital? So we're gonna ask Ray. What his definition of capital, he says he's from DC. We know that's the capital, And then, if you like good jazz music, we've heard of the Capitol Jazz Fest, but we are talking about a different type of capital this morning. So Ray, why don't you, enlighten us on what your definition of capital is?
Well, I look at it in two ways. One is insurance. Insurance meaning, especially in times like this, if you have access to capital, it's going to put you in a position to withstand or the weather a storm like we're going through now. If you went in one of those kind of businesses, maybe it's the restaurant or hospitality industry, we know how they're being impacted. So having access to resources or be able to drill down money from maybe like a line of credit, something I have with Chase Bank, it helps you sleep really good at night. And as an entrepreneur, your mind is always working. And if you got those resources sitting there, there's just one less thing you have to worry about. That's on the I also call that like the insurance side. The other part is being able to scale and grow, but still do it strategically. So for example, I've been running Whole Project, our IT training program, since 2009. And probably the last 5 years, all of my students have been getting on me about not starting a staffing and recruiting agency. Because when we train our folks, we turn them over to people like Robert Half, Insight Global, Tech Systems, Kelly Services, you name it, Apex, all those staffing agencies, even a lot of the big government integrators like CACI and others, they will just simply come to me, get access to our people, because my goal is to get our folks working, and we hand them over, they get a job, the company gets a great employee. The grads like, Bill, we need to do that ourselves. So I've been working the plan to build our staffing agency. And one of the first things you need is capital, because when you start doing staffing and you got 25, 30 people on payroll, it may be 30, 45 days, even 60 days before you get that first check. So IT people make really good money. So if you got a payroll you got to meet for 2 weeks or maybe a month, how cool is it to be able to go into your Chase app on your phone and just simply move $50,000-$60,000 from the $250,000 line of credit that you have into your payroll account to cover that salary. That's the kind of position we've put ourselves in. And I can't wait to talk more about like how we made that happen for ourselves. But that's how I see capital, to scale and grow, but also as an insurance policy.
Absolutely. You just tuned in. This is Black People versus access to capital. And the example that he just said was access. Access is going on your phone, on your computer, and you can access it right there. And you can use it when you need it. Because sometimes in business, you're going to need it. You're going to need that. You're going to need that carryover money. Like you said, everybody done pay their bills right on demand, especially when they're 5 and 6 and 7 figure bills that are coming through. Yep. Man, this is the Afro-American Newspapers platform, 128 years. I'm sure throughout those years, we needed to move some capital around. We needed access to some capital. 5-6 generations of going. And we thank everybody who has tuned in. We popped up on your thread. Share this information. Somebody out there is a business minded. They need access. They have their own business. They're starting their business. They've already started a business and they want to know this question. If they haven't figured it out, how can I access capital? Some people have said it affects payroll. Rachel says it's backup money. That's exactly what you're talking about, Ray. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about. I mean, in terms of, sometimes even Rachel said you get stretched. Stretched. If you've been an entrepreneur, sometimes you can be stretched, but it's your dream that you're being stretched for. It's a lot of stereotypes out there about capital. Misha Green, I know you are always on these streets. Now you're on these digital streets. So what kind of stereotypes have you heard as far as African Americans, Black people being able to access capital?
Okay, so yeah, on these digital streets, it's a lot easier for people to talk about it, sort of. It becomes social media conversations and trends and hashtags on Twitter and Instagram. And so, it's again been people venting for the most part, as well as people sharing resources, which has been really interesting, particularly during this time, because I think in the Black community, we've been really trying to push entrepreneurship in Black families. And so there's been a lot of conversations surrounding it. But I am going to give you all some of them out here. Again, throw them in the comments if you have heard certain things about capital and access to it. And again, these are not stereotypes necessarily endorsed by the Afro-American newspapers. So the first is it's a lot more difficult for Black people to access capital. Many people don't want to invest in Black businesses. Is a stereotype. The reason why there aren't more Black entrepreneurs is because of the lack of access to capital. Accessing capital is part of a systemic structure, thus stopping Black Americans. Most Black entrepreneurs don't have access to capital markets, and those with access to capital markets have friends in high/white spaces and places.
White spaces and places. Man, I don't know, Ray. Did any of those stereotypes jump out at you, or have you heard these before?
I've heard it. I'm so happy to be on here. I'm telling you, I'm one of the most transparent business owners you ever gonna meet, and I can't wait to dig deep into like how I have lines of credit or access to capital with Wells Fargo. I see someone had mentioned them, and Chase Bank has been an amazing partner. I've heard those stereotypes. The first thing I would say though is we gotta participate. We got to apply. We got to turn in our paperwork. We have to really legitimize our businesses. I was doing a show like this about a month and a half ago, and we were talking off camera, and I was saying how I want to see more people benefit from opportunities like the PPP loans or the SBA loans. And the guy was saying, well, Bill, our folks got to stop having these lifestyle businesses. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like they're not operating like above board, so they don't get a chance to participate in a lot of stuff. When I went to Chase and got me a $250,000 line of credit, I didn't turn in a business plan. I didn't know anybody at the bank. I had a couple credit cards with Chase for like the last 4 or 5 years, I said, they say, are you interested in doing a line of credit? I'm like, absolutely. I didn't even go in there for that. She said, I said, well, what are the requirements? She said, simply turn in your last 2 years bank statements, not bank statement, I'm sorry, your tax returns. I said, well, how do you determine how much a person is eligible for? This is Chase Bank, Christina Sicario. She said, well, all we would need is your last 2 years tax returns, and then we'll take the average gross revenue and we give you 25%. That's what she said. I said, that is? She's like, yes. So I got on the phone with my accountant and said, hey, send me the last 2 years worth of tax returns. We sent them in. Our revenue was about $1 million a year, and we got a $250,000 line of credit. It was done in a couple of days. We signed the papers and it was over. Yeah.
You said a key word. You said a key word, right? You said the last 2 years of tax return, which means you had to file tax returns, which means you had to be in business. You said another key word, because I don't know if everybody is on here listening. You might not be an accountant and you might not have an accounting business, but you need to get your team together. And you said you called. You didn't try to do it yourself, right?
Oh, no.
You didn't,
I know what I'm good at.
You didn't bootleg your taxes like you used to do when you just got out of college and think you could do it on TurboTax or something. You called your accountant, and that accountant's actually expertise helped you get a line of credit without a business plan. So that was one of the stereotypes. Thank you for jumping in. Dr. Draper, you smiling so much. I think you want to say something. Go ahead.
I want to jump in. I want to just piggyback on something that Ray Bell said, because I had a conversation just this week, 2 days ago, with somebody from M&T. They said, we have PPP money. People are not applying for this money. She said, Dr. Draper, what is wrong? Yeah. She said, I'm hearing all kinds of stereotypes that people don't want to borrow. They're afraid they won't be able to pay it back. They think the government is out to do something differently than just to have them access this money. She said, how can you help us get the word out? She said, we don't want to turn this money back. We have money. We are ready to lend this PPP money. Listen, it's fully forgivable if you use it for what it's intended for.
Yeah.
It's for payroll. It's for, mortgage payment. It's for utilities. It's for other kinds of things. And so she was asking us for help. So I had a help solution for her, which is
I know you did.
Get the word out through the Black press. Come on the Chicken Box. Let's talk about it. People trust the Black press. Let's get it out. She said she said they are spending a lot of time just trying to figure out how to give us money. How to give us money through PPP.
Hello, somebody. If you're listening in and you're a business and you have a couple years of tax returns done, if not, hurry up.
Right, get them done.
Hurry up and get them done, because there is money out there. That same type of intrepidation, Dr. Draper, sounds like the vaccine, even though we're not talking about the vaccine, but I could have substituted PPP for vaccine at that particular juncture as well, but that's another show.
No, but you must have been in my conversation, because I said the same thing to the banker at M&T, and she said, that is the same thing. Listen, our church got PPP money. We got to read the rules, follow directions, apply for these things. And speaking of access to capital, there are lots of programs out now. Verizon put some money on the street. You didn't have a couple of days to apply for it. It was $10,000, but that was grant money. Now, are all of us going to get it? No. But I talked to a whole lot of people, and 11:59, I don't remember what night it was, Rachel, Tuesday night or whatever. We were hitting that button. If you're in the Baltimore area, BGE has grants for small businesses in 3 rounds. We got to get on the radar, figure out what these things are, and share the information. That's what we're doing today. Share the information. I see you have a question there. I'd love to hear Ray Bell weigh in on this. The difference between getting a business loan and a regular loan.
Hey, Fran, we'll shout out to the MSU, Morgan State University in the building. If you're an HBCU grad and you listening, just put it in the chat. We always like to see who's listening.
Yes,
where you're from, put it in where you're from. We'll go old school, wave your hands in the air. Anyway, let's stay on this Chicken Box. You can get loose. You got it, because it's too many Zooms, too many streams. We got AKA and an MSU. She had a great question, Ray. Mm-hmm. What is the difference between getting a business loan and a regular loan?
So I want to try to not be like over technical. I'm gonna simplify this.
No,
for
get
just
over
the average
technical.
person.
Get over technical, okay? Because you know, I mean, sometimes you got to take it to the next level, and you got to raise somebody, interest enough for them to do some research and get to the point. Because if they just get to the point, they're gonna go to the next level. So get super technical, Ray. Come on.
So I'll say this. Think of the difference with a business loan. You're going and you're telling them, here's what I want to do from A to Z. They're going to evaluate that. They're going to hold you to it. They're going to want to see the market research. They're going to want to see the marketing and advertising associated when you go in for that loan, because you're looking for a specific thing for that money. I'm a much bigger fan when the opportunity is there for a line of credit. So remember, I said I can go on my app and take that $250,000 and hit a button and put $50,000 into a payroll account. Or if I do need to do something that would be more closely aligned with for a business loan, I get to do it through my line of credit, and you're probably going to get a larger amount, especially your smaller companies, in a line of credit than you would a specific business loan. In my opinion, I mean, I don't know this to be fact, but I would think so based on what I've experienced with Chase. I also have a line of credit with another bank too. But yeah, that's how I would separate the two. Something very specific is a business loan versus a line of credit, which I'm a much bigger fan of. The money is sitting there waiting on you to use it. And then the rates are a lot less. I know they are with Chase. I can go grab $40,000, and if I kept that money for more than a month, the payment would be on $40,000 cash is probably about $350. I mean, how cool is that, right? To be able to go grab 40 grand to buy some inventory or to participate in whatever, because there's no strings attached to it. I can do whatever I want to do with it. And you go grab the money. If you keep it more than a month and you got to make a monthly payment, you just make that monthly payment like $350, $400 on 40 grand. How do I know that? Because I've done it. So I know that's how it works.
Absolutely. You see a lot of people who ask about business credit. And do you need to, when does it get to the point when you don't have to personally guarantee your business credit? And I see Benny's joined us, Odetta from Coppin State. We see you out there. Put in the chat if you're listening. And Mario Mohammed, she jumped up. Well, let me make sure it's a she. Hold on, I'll get my glasses on. Yes. She said fear was a big enemy. I forgot that was a real good point that you made. But back to the question is, when do you not have to personally guarantee a line of credit? Like I think maybe Fran, I don't know, Fran, if this was your question, what's the difference between your business credit and your regular credit that you secure? Or capital, I should say.
You want me to respond to that?
Yes, sir. You are expert, Ray.
Okay. I got an answer for you. So I think we need to become more strategic in how we do that. So when I first went in business, I was always using the credit union for all my personal stuff. Love the credit union, still have an account with them. Navy is the one that I prefer. As I was, when I decided to jump into business, I opened up a business account with Chase. And I got me a business credit card. And I already had an auto loan with them. And then I just simply called the business department and said, hey, I'm interested in refinancing my vehicle from my personal account to my business account, because I wanted to free up my personal credit so my debt to income wouldn't look so high. I'm trying not to get too technical here. And I did what a lot of people don't do. I applied. Somebody had posted about being feared. The little person sits on your show and said, Ray, doggone well, they ain't gonna give you $75,000 vehicle loan for a business. They did. I had bought me a Range Rover, had it in my personal name. I went to Navy, they refinanced it, and I put it in the business name. So that next month, when I looked at my credit report, it said that the Range Rover was paid off. That's all it says. Now I'm sitting over here in my business name, and it's business credit. So that means I have a better debt to income ratio, and I'm still constantly building my business credit. Now I got a high ticket item that I'm paying on time like I supposed to, and I'm constantly building the business credit. When I went to Chase and got my line of credit, they never asked me for my SSN number. I'm gonna say that one more time. They gave me $250,000. They did not ask me for my SSN, which means that line of credit is solely tied to the business. Now, keep in mind, I've been at this for a minute. I've been strategic about building this. Folks got to be willing to play the long game. I'm trying not to preach, but I'm just trying to share with people what I have experienced.
This is the preacher's box, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. I'm on chicken box.
You sometimes you got to preach because they're not hearing it another way. And then we say, how can you hear unless you have a preacher? But anyway, we got a couple of them on here.
But I just want people to know we got to be willing to. Everything can't be microwavable. Sometimes you got to be willing to. When I tell my students, play the long game. Everybody that enrolls a whole project, they want to be a cybersecurity engineer, make $150,000 and work from home. Well, you're not doing that after like 1 year. You're not going to start off that way. You got to strategically work towards that. And that's the same thing in terms of building your business credit. I'm a big fan of people starting their business credit with a credit union because they're a lot more lenient and they're trying to grow their organizations. That may be a good place to start. Still use them, but I can tell you right now, the most that you'll get from Navy Federal Credit Union in the line of credit is $25,000. And you have to jump through hoops to get it because there's nothing attached to it. If I screwed up my vehicle loan, they can come to get that Range Rover. If I got a $250,000 line of credit and I just start spending money crazy, there's nothing attached to it. So you gotta put yourself in that position. It doesn't happen overnight. So one takeaway for everybody, as you grow in your business, be willing to play the long game. Don't expect these things to happen in a year or two because typically they don't.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up the long game. We're right at the midway point. We got a lot of people tuning in. Lenora Housey just joined us. Odetta, good information. Transferred personal debt, then card to the business as a result. Yep. Your personal debt will. I love that you guys are chiming in. But if you guys are business minded, we're gonna take a shameless break now. I'm gonna try this for the first time, you guys. Work with me as we go along and then we're gonna get a good story. But just work with me here. See what we got. Here's a quick commercial back. Man, it worked because that was a Chicken Box first commercial, ladies and gentlemen. February 18th. If you have not registered, it is free. It's the Black Business Matters Expo, powered by the Afro-American newspaper, the channel that you're listening to now. We have an emerging track. We have sheesh. What's the other one? Accelerating. Look, I'm trying to step on the gas so much. We got one that's emerging, one that's accelerating. They're evergreen. You can watch both of them. We have Billionaire, and maybe you never heard his name before, Robert Smith. We have Dr. Draper. We got Mayor Scott. We got Will Holmes. We got Eric Thomas, the hip hop preacher. I don't know if you've ever gone on YouTube and seen his fire that he brings. If that can't motivate you, I think you might not need to be in business. It is something for everybody, and it might be one thing said in these sessions that will change your business, that could possibly change your life, that can get you from building somebody else's dream. If you work for someone else, and now it's nothing wrong with working for somebody else, but you're building someone else's dream. So if you have an entrepreneur bone or spirit in your body, Black Business Matters Conference, no other time. This is the very first. This is the inaugural, and we have the top. We got the billionaire, one of the richest African Americans on the planet, y'all, who are going to be here. And if you can't get a little bit of information from that, just hang up. Just go to another channel right now. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. February 18th. I'm sorry, I didn't even tell you where to go. Go to afro.com. I'm going to make it real simple for you. Go to afro.com. Click on that flyer right on that page. And matter of fact, while you're on there, subscribe. We've been in business for 128 years. Nobody controls what we say. You You know what I mean? Nobody can move our agenda around, can give us misinformation. And that's the fact. That's the reason why we've been in business so long. So Dr. Draper,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to pivot right there because
All right, pivot.
this is a family business. If you didn't know, on the diagonal is my mother. I know you guys didn't know. Peck Draper, you know, it might have just blown you off, but that is my biological mother. She named me Kevin. I grabbed impeccable when I turned 40 because I wanted to put excellence to my name. But we want to know, since we're accessing capital today, what is the story behind the Afro? And pretty much it's a quick little note of how they started and how we've been able to sustain through now 6 generations. And did we raise capital back then? What happened in 1892?
Okay, before I say that, let me let people know the Black Business Matters Expo is free. Somebody say free. We also capped the registrations at 750. We are over 600. It's virtual. And so we want to make sure we don't have any technical difficulties. And thirdly, let me say, speaking of banks, we've got sponsors that we want to shout out. I want Misha to shout them out in a minute, Misha. So find that list, shout them out in a minute. But let me answer the question at hand. So here's how the story goes. The year was 1892. My great-grandfather, Kevin's great-great-grandfather, John Henry Murphy Sr., was a veteran of the Civil War, having gone to the rank of sergeant in the colored troops. Came out at the age of 52, was a whitewasher. He and his wife had 10 children. And John Henry Murphy Sr. decided he had a dream. He wanted to start a publication for and about Black people. He had been a printer in business with 2 preachers. Well, these preachers were better preachers than they were publishers, and they put their name, Afro was already there, and their printing press up for auction. And John Henry Murphy accessed the capital of his wife. That's a long story, but depending on who tells it, the women in the family say that she loaned him the money at no interest, Ray Bell. The men in the family say, come on, that's ridiculous. They were married, she just gave him the money. But for $200, and a dream and a vision and a determination to do what was in his heart, he started the Afro. It was 3 cents, it was 1 page, and he wanted to talk about the things that were really happening in the Black community through our churches, our fraternal organizations. And so you look at an early edition, which you can access through the Enoch Pratt Library. You have a library card, or if you don't have a Baltimore Enoch Pratt Library, get one. It doesn't cost you anything. You can access old editions of the Afro dating back to 1893 to 1988. It's in a historical collection there. And so that's the way it got started. And he took that $200. Let me tell you something else that they did back then. All 10 of those children, every single one of them had a part in the business. The boys, the 5 guys, 5 boys, 5 girls, the male children all went to work. The female children didn't, but one of them went on the board of the paper. And here was the mandate from their dad. Guys, you're going to work, but you're going to pay your sisters the same amount of money that you get every week. Getting $50 a week, they getting $50 a week. And then World War II happened, and you know what happened? The men went to war and the women went to work. And so, you know, I could tell you so much more about that story, but we're talking about access to capital, and took that $200, built a media empire, if you will, for that time, ended up with 13 editions, 200 employees all over the country, owned our own printing press. And today we still print a legacy edition. You check us out for those who are interested in that. A lot of people still are, but mostly we're on social media and have our digital editions, which are very popular. And I got to give us this shout out from this $200. We've leveraged that through the generations, and it just hasn't been Murphy descendants that have been employed. We have employed people from all over the place and still have a great team today. And so Misha may say something about this, but this is a little bit about using capital and leveraging influence. We just hit 10K on Instagram last week, which puts us in a really unique position to do a whole lot of swiping up, right? Jumped into the clubhouse, swiping up. So, you got to just keep it moving. So there you have it. And Kevin usually says, there you have it. Boom. There you have it.
Man, I went on mute because the story, if that story, whether you are part of the Murphy family, you worked at the Afro, or you're just listening for the first time, the part that gets me, I got to just look back at his friends, Ray, during that time. They were blacksmiths. They had other kind of trades. Rumor has less than 2% of African Americans could even read.
Mm-hmm.
And this brother and sister, because she was in on it, you know what I mean? She gave the okay because she gave up the money. He didn't just come up and say, like, I need 200. He had to have a story with the 200. At 52, you know he had a story, right? Guys, you know when you share your dream with the one that you care about, you know, you got to give this. She's got to buy into it first. She bought into it enough to give the $200, but that's the part that blows my mind is he went left and said, I'm going to start a newspaper. And I said, wait a minute. 98% of us can't read. What you mean you're gonna start a newspaper? But that's called vision.
Mm-hmm.
And when Ray said the long game earlier, I was really happy that you said that, because sometimes the vision is not right this second. You know what I mean? It's for the future. Mm-hmm. So Ray, if you want to speak to, to the vision, because I heard you say you seem like a serial entrepreneur in your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like you woke up one day and said, "Look, I'm not doing this no more. I'm ready to change." And just inspire some people who are on the edge right now and thinking about starting their own business or making a change. Just take us through your journey a little bit while we got a little bit of time left. Thanks everybody for hanging in. Who's hanging in?
Well, first I would say that there's never a right time. And I see this more with women than men because so many Black women are leading households. So they're a little bit more cautious about stepping out, leaving a job, or, investing money to get something started. And I get it. I shared with you guys that my company is $1 million. We make $1 million a year. And in 2009, when I started, this was simply just a way for me to help some kids get out of poverty. That's what it started out as. And then the next year came and we kept training. This is all volunteer. In 2012, I got a email from my boss they wanted to talk to me, and the HR director was in the room. If you guys know anything about the HR director being in the room, when your boss call you in, that's probably not going to be a good meeting for you. He was in there because they were letting me go. And they were letting me go because the last 3 years, majority of my time was spent on whole project stuff and not doing the work that I was being paid to do. At the time I was being naive. There was a Washington Post article about our program. And I just so happened to mention the company that I was working for. The company I work for, they have all the Google alerts set up. So as soon as the Washington Post article hit, their name is in it, show them in people's inbox. They start coming to my desk. Oh, Ray, congratulations on what you're doing. This is so great. So then they probably started thinking when they went back to their desk, that's why he always taking off. That's why he ain't never here. So that I was busy developing the young people that I wanted to help and not doing the work that I was being paid for. So they let me go. But when I walked out of the door, my boss said, Raymond, and I turned around, he extended his hand out. He said, go over there and help those kids because you and I both know that's what you want to do anyway. And this is the guy that's out here helping everybody else that he could find get a job, had just lost his. And this was all volunteer training at the time. There was no contract with the government, and there was no whole project online like it is now. It wasn't the machine that it is today. Well, I was working down at the National Harbor. I'm walking around here in the days because at the time I had a wife and had 2 kids, one in college, one in elementary school. I'm trying to figure out how the heck I'm gonna take care of them. That night we had class, 6:30 to 9:30. You would have thought nothing had happened. Nothing changed. I didn't flinch. I just kept doing the work. But I started thinking to myself, this is something I'm really good at and I can really help people. There might be a true business here. So I started looking for opportunities to turn this volunteer effort into a business. And I met up with some folks from UPO, United Plan Organization in DC, and we struck a deal in my very first class. I want people to hear this. I had just gotten fired. A couple months later, I started thinking about an entrepreneurship as a business. The very first contract was to train 20 people. They paid me $75,000. I got $75,000 to do something I have been doing on a volunteer basis for 4 years, and it cost me my job. And at the time I was married, I had 2 kids. One of my kids was in college. You don't know. A lot of us, I'm not sure at what point I would have ever left, but sometimes we need a push. Right. Sometimes we need God to step in and say, you know what? He ain't gonna leave on his own. I'm gonna kick his butt out the door and make him go do what I know what he's capable of. Because for some reason he ain't seeing it. And as they say, the rest is history. It went from one training class with them to a second one. And then we started, I started looking at opportunities inside of DC government to do training specifically for young people because there was so much crime and violence and kids weren't finishing college and weren't going. So an opportunity came out called DC Youth Tech, train young people 18 to 24. We got funding for them. I partnered with UPO, used their good, strong nonprofit stability, along with my amazing training delivery from my staff and myself, the machine that we were building. We partnered, we negotiated who was going to get what and who was going to do what. And we did 12, 15 classes for young adults 18 and 24. And I went from maybe a $70,000 job doing something I really didn't like to do because I wasn't helping the kind of people I wanted to help to $500,000 like a year later. I'm sharing that story not to impress people, but to impress upon you the possibilities. Too many of us are listening to that person on our shoulders telling us, don't do it. Keep that security, that level of comfort. If I could do it all over again, I would have left. He wouldn't have had to fire me. I would have been gone. Now, me and him, we friends on social media. And every now and then he'll chime in and say, Ray, do you remember that day? And that's all he says. And he and I both know what that meant. We done had lunch since. I remember him telling me that, Ray, you're the face of something. And I was talking about how I don't ever want to feel like I'm the focal point. It's the students. It's the people I'm trying to help. He's like, Ray, it don't work that way. There's a white man telling me this. We sitting over there in a restaurant over in National Harbor. He's like, just look at it like the civil rights movement with Dr. King. He's like, there were so many people involved, but everybody took cues from Dr. King. He was the one who set the tone. He was out front. He was leading the effort. He said, you got to see yourself that way. Not like Dr. King, for example, but just the way they had structured the civil rights movement. And I've always tried to put the students, for anybody know me, I rarely talk about my own. I'm only talking personally today because that's what you guys want to hear. But normally, and everybody that follows me know, I'm always talking about the students and graduates of Hope Project because those are the kids who believed in me when everybody else laughed at me when I said I was going to build this country's most successful job training program for young, poor Black people. And we've done it. And I've done it because of what they have been doing.
Absolutely. If you just tuned in, we are having a conversation on the Chicken Box where Ray Bell has been ringing his truth. You know, before we were backstage before we said we were going to put the pun in the bell. You know what I mean? He's ringing it throughout the hood with his Hope program, right? Harvard of the hood. You got, man, look, Ray Bell, you have been an amazing inspiration. We got both Jules now. So our jewelry store is complete. What's up, Jewel? We got Craig Talley still hanging in, Rachel, Deborah, Angela Kirkpatrick. We got a few other people. Just put a 1 in the chat if you're getting anything out of this conversation today. Listen, the story.
I want to add something, Kevin. We have time for like one more quick word.
You can.
I just want to get this in because I don't want to get off this call and not be able to share this. Because we're at a point now when it comes to entrepreneurship and business where we got to strike. We got to strike while the iron is hot. There are so many opportunities that are just bubbling up in our community. Black, we're not taking advantage. Everybody else is. It's driving me nuts. I got with my team and said, guys, yes, we've been doing a lot of online training. We've been doing well with it. But there is a market for people that don't live in the DC area, that can't come and travel to DC every day, that may live in Baltimore, that want to take advantage of this machine and the expertise that we have. I said, I want us to come up with a true online program, and it's just online. They'll never see us in person. They'll never shake our hand as we see them in the mall. So we came up with Hope Project Online. We marketed Hope Project Online for a month prior to the launch. We launched on December the 7th. The very first day of class, this is a good example of branding. The very first day that we launched Hope Project was December 7th, after about 30 days of advertising. 33 people signed up. I got one phone call. If you're a business owner, you appreciate that. 33 people paid us, and we had never done a class before where people paid to attend. It always got funded by some government agency or some grant. So the very first time we offered online training for a fee, 33 people signed up the very first day. Only one person called. And they were calling because they want to know what we're going to offer daytime classes. At the time, we wanted to say we want to do night classes. They trusted us. They trusted us because they've been following us. They've been hearing about the success, and the brand was strong enough for 33 people to be that interested on the first day. By the time we launched the class, January the 11th, about 125 people had enrolled in 3 classes. We weren't doing that prior to COVID-19. So we pivoted. And I want to see more organizations pivot and find a way to grow a company during times like this. Or you may have to start something totally new. Don't be afraid of that. You may have been working on something for the last couple of years, had marginal success, but there's no growth right now because of what we're dealing with. You got some skills. I know you do. Just find another way to start another business, or to pivot, at least temporarily, to take advantage of the opportunity that exists in a time like this. Online is the future of so many things. We got to become more familiar with it to benefit. Thank you for letting me share that part.
Oh no, all of this is good. Listen, and because it's our own channel, the network is not going to say Lisa Ray is coming in next to knock this show off the line. But this is our show. So sometimes, we'll stay when the information warrants staying. Thanks everybody who's hanging out. I know your lunch break might be wrapping up, if you even have a lunch break now. You know what I mean? It seems like you work more when you're remote than you did going into the office. And if you're an entrepreneur, like Ray said earlier, your mind is always turning. You got to find a way to shut that mind off. But listen, 1892, we got a lot of Afro facts in our archives. And usually we always bring a fact up of the week. Misha Green, what you got going on? What correlates or what resonated in the Afro archives this week?
Wow. So this week in the Afro archives, there was so much. It really took me a while to decide exactly what I wanted to share with you all today. I found so many really interesting headlines. But the one that I decided to go with, I thought was uplifting news, and I think touched on what we're focusing on at the Afro always, but particularly with our special edition that's coming up next week, which is Black First. And we won't have a chicken box next week because we will be all in our inaugural Black Business Matters Expo. So because of that, I wanted to sort of tease a little bit of a Black First from the Afro archive, as well as let you know something that happened this time in 1972. So on February 12th, 1972, we had a story that Buddy Brown became the first Black student body president at the University of Maryland, College Park. Brown was 29 at the time and a 1960 graduate of Douglas High School. And at the time, he was married, a father of 2, and a Vietnam vet and former Baltimore cab driver. The article said that the university had about 35,000 students and about 800 Black students, and that Brown had already gained popularity on campus, having served as vice president of the student body the year before. And thus, it was a natural progression as president of the student body. And that's this week's Afro Fact.
Boom. So that just wasn't the Black Student Union. That was the entire student body. Wow. 800 Black students, 35,000 white. What's the ratio now, University of Maryland? Somebody put it in the chat if you know. Man, it's wrapping up. we like to speak our truth, and we're talking about access to capital, but we also got a chance to really get into Ray's story. And to me, the story behind the entrepreneur is always really just interesting, it's effective, and it's inspirational. And so I thank you for sharing. He said it was just important to take the long game and to really build your credit. Now, if you got 400 credit score, the first thing you got to do is get your credit score up. You got to pay your bills on time. You got to get it together. You know what I mean? You got to build it to a certain point before you can get business credit. But the business credit will alleviate your debt to income ratio on your personal sheet. Mm-hmm. And the thing I loved about everything you said earlier, and I guess I'm on the box right now, I'm on the chicken box early, y'all, is to take the steps necessary, right? And to check. I like to say in my business, check the checker that checks the check. So don't just assume that they have done what they said they were going to do. Check in on them. If you got some people on your team that you're paying to do a certain position, you have to understand. You might not have to know exactly what they're doing, but you have to have an understanding of what they're doing. And as you grow your business, capital is going to be key to move you to whatever next level and vision that you have. And it's good. I love that you say things that you listen to your people, Ray. It seems like everybody was listening to the team. If somebody had a good idea, you didn't just jump up and say, it's Ray's idea. No, you gave credit for the person who, because it's a team. And so when you are able to just take an idea from a team, it always grows. We're gonna end with the February 18th. I'm telling you, afro.com, y'all. If you have not registered, we are going to be, I like to say sold out, but it was sold out. Don't register if you don't care about business, just to take up a space. We got the billionaires there. We got the game changers there. We got the thought leaders there. We have a 128-year-old business, which is the Afro, that is hosting it. You're going to learn something at this Black Business Matters Expo. Go to afro.com and register. It's only a few spots left. I'm off the box. Dr. Draper?
Absolutely register. It is free. Let me give a shout out to our sponsors, but let me say it differently, Kevin. What you said the same thing. You can't expect what you don't inspect. I'm just going to leave it like that. So you have to, and somebody asked a question earlier, I'm going to say on the box with this. Someone said, well, why take out a loan when you could just save for a business? Listen, the key to business is OPM, other people's money. Can I say that again? Other people's money. It's no reason to tie up your personal assets and resources when you have access to OPM. That's what you want to leverage, other people's money. So I want to say that. Give a shout out to all of our sponsors. Misha, I'm going to run them down real quick. Comcast, local and national, JP Morgan Chase, CareFirst, M&T Bank, BGE, Baltimore Development Corporation, T. Rowe Price Foundation. These are people who are sponsoring so that you can register how? Free. And we can bring the kind of programming to you. We also have some limited vendor booth space. It's inexpensive, but don't let money be an issue. I am offering vendor booth space to our listeners if you have a business. All right.
What do you mean offering?
Okay, it's $150, but if there's a Black business out there that says, you know what, I don't even have $150. Well, I want you to email ldonaldson@afro.com, ldonaldson@afro.com. That's ldonaldson@afro.com. And you have a business and you want to do a virtual vendor booth, you just want to download a link to your business and put a logo there. We got you covered as long as they last. Okay. So that's that. So I'm on the box to say, come on, guys, let's get our businesses up. I said it last week, or I said it to somebody. If you took the 100 top Black enterprise businesses in the entire country, we don't make as much as Walmart by itself. Mm-hmm. We don't employ, 97% of our businesses do not employ people, which means the business lives and dies with the entrepreneur. We have to scale our businesses so that my great-grandfather believed, and my grandfather really believed, that anybody in the family who needed a job and had the skill set could have a job. Now, he only paid us 50 cents an hour, but we worked from age 14 up. And then, if you wanted to make a career of it, you could. We need to employ folk, get them trained at Hope Project. We need to, and then let's put people to work. We don't own enough, because if Facebook decides tomorrow that we all are out, we wouldn't even be able to do the chicken box. So I'm getting off the box. We need to be owners, right? And employers. Now I know that somebody has to be an employee. That's great. So there are people who do that, but there are a whole lot of us who are sitting on dreams, sitting on what God has given us, and not leveraging that to impact not just your own bottom line, your family's bottom line, but the community's bottom line. We have been given the mandate to reach back, bring somebody else up, and to have thriving businesses. So I'm all about thriving businesses. We want to do our part. That's why we're having Black Business Expo next Thursday. Register. And if you register, then you can access the information for 30 days after that. It'll be up. We know some of us are not going to sit from 10 to 5 for this whole thing while it's going on, but you can come back. But that's only if you register at afro.com. I am off the box.
Absolutely, Ray. We're going to save you for last. It's people out there who've been looking to connect with Ray. Here it is. Is that IG, Ray? Where's that?
So all of my social media is Ray Bell JR. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. You guys can find me. Please me up. I would love for you guys to follow me, and I'll definitely follow back. I've been doing this work since 2009, training, coaching, and mentoring people for careers in IT. And I want to say probably the last 6 years, I've been doing a whole lot of training, coaching, and mentoring of entrepreneurs. I have graduates that make $180,000 a year, but they want to work for themselves. They rather make $100,000 to start if they can just get their own thing going, because they know long-term, playing a long game, they're going to be a lot better off, not just financially, but just a sense of accomplishment, because there's so much more to running and growing a business than just making money. I'll leave the entrepreneurs with this one thought. You can't just run a business. You got to be constantly selling. You got to be constantly growing the company. Utilize the technology that exists and don't be fearful. It's okay to fail. I've had an unbelievable run, and I'm sure at some point we're going to begin to run into some hiccups, but I expect that. And I think that as entrepreneurs, you have to go in knowing that things aren't going to always be great, but that's a part of the journey. That's the exciting part. I remember when I had a student come to me and say, Mr. Bill, we don't really hang out no more because the company has grown. We used to sit at school after class and play spades for hours. Just hang out talking. But now the company has grown. I don't get a chance to do all that. So the dynamics have changed. So embrace the struggle. I could play spades back then because we didn't have a whole lot of business. I wasn't really busy after class, but I can't play spades now. You know, we do our little once a month happy hour. That's my one time to get connected with the students. But even with COVID, we can't do that right now. But the dynamics will change. So embrace that struggling time, because when you blow up, not if, but when you blow up, you may not have the ability to do some of the stuff that you would normally be able to do.
Oh, maybe we can have a hope and an Afro Spades tournament when the pandemic is over. You know, I mean, we can talk some business and we can talk some trash on the spades table too. That sounds like a plan. Ray, stay on before you get off. But Misha Green, my millennial friend, I know you've been sitting through all of this, but I want you to chime in, because a lot of millennials are starting businesses now. Just what's your final words on today's show?
Well, I just first want to thank Ray Bell so much. I have learned a great deal, and I thank him for the work that we're doing and for coming in and educating us further today. I really appreciate it. The one thing I have to say, particularly to my millennial friends tuning in, is really take the advice of jumping right on in and doing the work and researching your resources. I heard so many times throughout this conversation about there being capital available, being assets available that we just absolutely aren't taking advantage of. And we're not reaching out to these banks and doing the research and applying for these grants and loans and getting this credit. And so because of that, I just really, really want to empower everyone tuning in, but particularly my age group, saying, guys, it's out there. We are the next generation of leaders and movers and shakers and entrepreneurs. And so if we want to make a difference, we have to jump in, dive in now. And I'm off the box.
Absolutely. This has been another fantastic episode of the Chicken Box. Ray Bell, you're now officially part of the Afro family. Yes. You got a friend here. Your news is our news. So share it with us first. We want to tell it to the world first through afro.com. It's not just Baltimore and DC that we reach. We reach the world, and we got people who listen in from everywhere. You guys, you need to get trained. There's some people out there saying that you can't find a job. You don't have to live in DC. Hook up with Ray. Yes. Get trained so that you can add value in the marketplace. If you're a place right now and you are doing a job, don't look at the job as just something that you just, working your way through. Learn everything you can while you're on your job, because one day you're going to need to apply it to what I like to call your life's work. Mm-hmm. Get the training on the job so that when you can happen 4 years later, like Ray Bell said, you get a chance to do your life work. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. February 18th is going to be amazing. Ray, we needed to meet you just a week earlier. We would have had a slot for you, but we got you next year, Ray.
Yes, sir.
You're going to do a session on training or whatever whatever else that you want to do. But on the second Black Business Matters Expo, you on the list, okay?
Thank you.
My Afro team, make sure, because, it's a lot of information. But I'm saying it now. Ray is on the list to teach on our next expo. Everybody have a great day, and no chicken box next week because we will all be at the expo. Everybody, where will we be? February 18th. You haven't registered, you thinking about business, go to afro.com. I'm plugging it like radio stations do, but we have to promote our, we got to do business together, people. We have to promote what we do in this Black community. Yes, we welcome all communities. Money is green. But we want to inspire the team, the African Americans and the Blacks all over the world to circulate the dollar in our community a little longer. I mean, come on, we got to get up on the record. We have to circulate that money a little bit longer, and we can circulate it really good online. So be at the virtual Black Business Matters Expo. Ray, I hope to see you there. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Hang out for a second, Ray, when we get finished. Sure. Until next week, everybody, God bless you. Get your business. Thanks for everybody for your comments. It helps. All the engagement helps. Everything helps push it forward so that we can continue to inspire, educate, and inform. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next week. We're at the Black Business Matters.